This is Eagle Freedom Presents Showtime.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Here's your host, Deston Rogers.
And welcome to another edition of Eagle Freedom Presents, everybody. I am Deston Rogers. Thank you very much for joining me. Here at Eagle Freedom Presents, we bring you stories of those who reflect our mantra of rise, inspire, and overcome. Let me ask you a question. In a high-stakes world, how do we lead without burning out? And how do we chase success without losing our values? Better yet, can you achieve your true calling in life later in life? To help us answer these questions, my guest today is Patrick Dunn. Patrick is the founder of Paxaterra Global, a purpose-driven consultancy that empowers companies to create regenerative impact. He's here to talk to us about building resilience that lasts, leading with your heart as much as your head, and enlightening us on discovering his true calling in life after seemingly having it all. It's an honor to have him with us from his home in Nevada, joining us, Patrick Dunn. Patrick, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you as well. My pleasure to join you here today.
You know, one of the things I was looking at the Paxaterra Global website, and it says a lot about an organization and an individual when you go to the testimonials and you read what others have to say. So I'd like to read one as we start here. And it says, Patrick didn't just speak to us. He brought us into the story. It felt like we were walking the minefields alongside him, hearing the voices of those rebuilding their lives and standing quietly among the redwoods doing the Muir Woods Peace Walk. His way of storytelling is honest and real. Through his lead with soul message, he reminded us why we serve not for recognition, but to make a difference. It was one of those talks that stays with you long after the meeting ends. You know, we had a chance to catch up before this interview and having our discussion with you, Patrick. This really does say a lot about just our brief talk together about what you value in life. But it did seem like at one point, Patrick, you had everything going for you.
True. I mean, I spent 30 years in the fintech world, managing global teams for resilience, for crisis management, disaster recovery, doing that for 30 years. I mean, I thought that was the be all and end all, but I always knew there was something missing. I just didn't know what it was. As I got further along into my career, it became more and more apparent. It's like maybe my why is changing over the course of time. And the Muir Woods Walk that you just mentioned, where I co-led that and helped organize it, kind of brought me full circle in my life.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that led you up to where you are now, because you, in your own right, you've had to overcome some obstacles, as we all do in life. And so why don't you kind of bring our audience into the life of Patrick Dunn?
Sure, where to begin? So again, just to kind of give you the high level overview of who I am, where I came from, and how I got to where I'm at now. I graduated long time ago. I like to say a long time ago in a world far, far away, but it was at the University of Maine back in the mid 80s. My degree was in environmental science, and I actually became a park ranger for a number of years on the East Coast, primarily leading tours, doing a little bit of law enforcement work, but primarily my work was just doing the interpretation of the parks, doing the interpretation of the land around me. And that was very fulfilling. Just didn't pay well at the time. If you go back into the 80s, being a park ranger is probably similar to what it is today. Even talking to my friends that are park rangers today, you do it more for the experience and for the love of the environment than you do for the pay. But it got to a point where it was, my why changed a bit. I had started to have a family. I wanted to be able to support them a bit better. So then I changed careers, went into the high tech world, and eventually was leading global teams in resilience everywhere around the world that you can imagine. A lot of even in Iraq and Bosnia and some of these war-torn areas, Ukraine, for example. I was leading global teams in those areas. it just became apparent as I was progressing in my career that there was still something missing. The urge in the back of my head saying there's something more. There's got to be something more. You got to be doing more than just being on a conference call and settling the voices. I have what I call a radio voice. Actually, one of my old bosses called that my. I'd come in and I think she called it my Barry White voice, where I'd come in and we just, in the middle of all the consternations happening when there's an outage and it's affecting profitability, it's affecting regulatory conditions. There's a lot of stress going on. And that was what I came in to do. I calmed the voices down, but inside there was still something missing. And as my career progressed, it's like I didn't know quite what it was. But then that image, or the image that you gave of Muir Woods back in earlier this spring with the 80th anniversary of United Nations Peace Walk, that was my aha moment, saying, okay, this is what I'm here for. This is what to give back, to teach others. I mean, I've gone through the struggles. I've been the burnt out one. I've been the one that's leading on fumes, like in my talk that I have today. And I can definitely relate to the people that are going through that, and my why changing, and as I've mentioned before, and we'll probably talk about a bit again, is your why can change any number of times over the course of your career.
And that's so true. And I think with those, we briefly touched on this as you get up older in life, and we're talking like maybe even 50s and even to the point to the 60s now, where if you don't have a job or you lose a job now, it's almost hard, almost close to impossible to find that other job out there. Yet you said, and you pointed it out, you were talking about your why. And I think a lot of people think they need to figure it out early in life, that they need to know what they went on to do early in life. But the reality is life changes so much. So everybody's why moment comes at a different time, and so did yours.
Absolutely. My why at 20 something was being with the environment. I love the environment. And then as it evolved and I had a family, it changed again. And then as I got more involved in global leadership, it changed once again. So it's changed several times over the course of my career, and there's nothing wrong with that. And eventually, one of the signs of my burning out, and I do hate that term burning out because I think it's got a negative stereotype, and it's just a matter of running on fumes. You're hearing the voices from different directions, and that's what happened to me towards the end. And when I finally left the IT world, it wasn't necessarily on my own volition, but it was time. As I look back on it, it was tough, but at the same time, it's like, okay, it was a reset moment that I needed, and it propelled me more into the speaking that I've kind of been doing on the back burner anyway. This allowed me to do it more full time and dedicate my life to that, and dedicate my work time, so I'm not splitting it with doing a high tech job. This is who I am now. This Paxaterra Global is what I do, helping, not just speaking, but helping nonprofits and other people raise their voices that are underserved in the world.
Yeah, and you touched on something when you were talking about burnout, and it's not so much as you mentioned. The burnout word is got a negative effect on it. It's got a negative connotation with it, but really is like maybe it's sometimes that you're burned out in the fact that maybe you feel you've done as much as you can with where you're at, and you realize that there is more that you can do outside of where you're at.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about leaving a legacy as well. So when you've done as much as you possibly can do, you've given it all to your organization, your company, or whatever you're doing. It And when things change, it leaves a bit of a pit in your stomach as well. When you get to that point, you've done all you can do. There's nothing more you can do, and you're just spinning your wheel, so to speak. And others around you notice it. Your team notices it as well. When you've given everything you've had for the last several years to an organization, and then I don't want to say you've maxed out, but you've hit that peak where you can continue to give of yourself 110% every day without a break. That's when your breaking point hits. You have to learn when to take a pause, take a break, take a deep breath, think before you act. And if you're not doing those things, that's when you start going down that rabbit hole of burnout, of neglecting your family and things. And we've all been there. I've been there multiple times in my career. I mean, it's probably led to my early on divorce and earlier in my life. So, I mean, we all have our crosses to bear, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think what happens is there's this thought that you if you stumble and you fall sometimes, and let's say you've done a semi-long career in one area and you get to a point where you're wanting to change, there's this thought or belief that I can't go into something else. This is just what I have to do. This is just where I'm at. So I'm just gonna stick with it. I'm just gonna do it, even though I'm miserable. We talked about, going out there and putting on the face of everything's okay, but on the inside, just something just gnawing at you. Is that something that you really felt as you really started to make this change, going to make this change in your life?
Absolutely. I mean, the pressures are around us, especially as we get a bit older, and your career is kind of, your life is kind of defined as your career as well. So you've been successful, but you're still, but you're at home, is something missing. As I keep saying, it's like you're taking it out on those around you. The pressure is to stay in that job. I mean, I had a really good job, good six-figure job, and it just wasn't enough. I was didn't want to do it anymore, and the pressure on me was to, you got to suck it up and keep doing it. And it comes to a point where that's not healthy either. I talked to my doctor about that as well. I mean, there's no shame in talking to outside people as well, outside of your family. You get that unbiased third person. My personal physician was a great sounding board because he left his own job to go to a concierge position as a physician, just because of the same situations. He was being pulled in different directions. He was burnt out. He didn't A little bit different situation for him, but again, it was the same type of thing where you're giving it all, you get the pressure to stay in it, suck it up and do it. I've done that throughout my career. I wanted to make a change even 10 or 15 years ago to doing something else, but you get lured in by the money sometimes. You get lured in by the prestige that you're getting, the recognition that you're getting. Say, okay, I can deal with that. I may dab my toe into trying to do something else, but when you get the offers of doing a career change in your 40s or 50s, you're almost like starting over. And I don't think anybody in our situation, 40s, 50s, 60s, or even 70s, wants to completely start over at the bottom rung of a ladder. And organizations and companies don't want you to do that either. They want to bring in a fresh talent to do that, the lower paid talent. So it makes it challenging, as we noted, when you leave that position and you're, for whatever reason, in your 50s, 60s, either by your own volition or by someone else's volition, it's challenging to start over again. And you have to have the right mindset, and you have to have the support of those around you.
And I think also on top of that is when you get to that point, if you look at it at a different perspective, and that is, okay, now I have an opportunity to do something that I want to do, right? I'm in a position now where I'm gonna go after what it is that I really want to do with what I've got left in my life. I really want to, as we talked about before, you want to serve other people. And I think that's what we're here for. We're here to serve other people. So tell us a little bit about that transition as you went from your job and now you're going into Paxaterra Global. Tell us about this transition period that you went through.
Sure. I had actually started Paxaterra a few months before everything kind of fell apart on the career wise, because I could see handwriting on the wall, so to speak, that things were changing. Organization was changing itself, going in a little bit different direction from the career that I had. So I was leading up to it, but it still comes as a shock. So the biggest change was the first week or two of, I was working East Coast hours, was still waking up at 4 a.m. for that set, expecting to have to jump on a conference call at 5 a.m. West Coast time for 8 a.m. on the East Coast time. So those are the little things that you don't think about, but then it's also, you have the feelings of, am I letting down people? I mean, you got your family to think about, you've got your friends, and it's like, why did you? They all recognize that it wasn't your fault, that you left the position for whatever reason, and it wasn't healthy, and it may have just forced my hand a bit. But again, it's still that inner gut feeling. It's like, could I have done more? Could I have done something else to prolong prolong the misery, so to speak? But again, but once it happened and once the cord was severed, I felt freedom. I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. You have that freedom after for me, the grief period only lasted a couple of days because I knew this is the best thing that ever happened to me and allowed me to go in this new direction where I can use my service and I've been involved in service my entire life at various points with Rotary and with other organizations. And so this allowed me to come full circle in my life back to my passions of environment where I can do it, providing service to others. I mean, it's not just going in and working in a food kitchen. It's giving service to others and training and helping them learn about themselves, learning what they can do with their lives, and giving them the techniques that why may not want to change. They may want to stay in that position, but I'll give them the clues and the tools necessary to be able to allow them to grow on their own and kind of pull themselves up by the bootstraps, so to speak, with the techniques that I have to be able to avoid that burnout and continue to process things.
Now, in this process, as you're learning on this personal development level, were there some mentors or those that guided you that you looked at and said, I want to work like this, I want to be like this, or I want to do something similar? Were there some mentors in your life that kind of pointed you in this direction?
Not recently, but if I go back earlier in my life, I think I had the right mentors in place. Even going back to one of my original mentors in college. I mean, I'll mention her name, Nancy Dysart. She was a Miss Nancy, if you remember from your childhood days, a romper room. She was the director of young, when I was at the University of Maine, she was a former Miss Nancy romper room, but she was also the director of the Alumni Association. She became like my personal mentor, being a kid from a small town in Maine, going off to college, not knowing how to speak, being that shy kid, and having her guide me along the way, and then having her embed service into my life at that point. I mean, I'd done a few things in high school and things, but and she stayed with me throughout my whole life. She checked in on me from time to time over the next 30 years or so, 40 years, and we've always stayed in touch. And then mentors in my professional life, same thing. I had a former vice president at last company I worked with, and she left before I did, but she was always giving me that encouragement. She's the one that told me, use your Barry White voice to go out and help people and calm situations down. So I've had different voices at different times in my life, as we all do, and they're there for a reason. So I'm a firm believer in your mentors showing up at the right time, people showing up at the right time in your life when you need it. And it's not an extra voice. It's just there to guide, another guide for you during your journey in life.
One of the big things that you have with Paxaterra Global is that you lead with soul. Can you touch on that? What does that actually mean?
So to me, it means leading from the inside out. So I have four pillars. It's presence, purpose, regeneration, and service. So presence is when you're leading with soul and you're present, you're showing up fully awake, you're grounded, attentive to the people genuinely seen and heard in your leadership. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that, it's only your work life, it's your personal life too. It's your family, it's your spouse, your girlfriend, your daughters, along that way. Your purpose, as we've alluded to before, that's learning when to clear your why, when to change your why. You got to align your values, your work, and the impact that you want to have in the world. And you have your regeneration. You got to be able to restore your energy, your creativity, and spirit, so that you can actually sustain instead of running on fumes. So that being able to sustain yourself and being able to pull yourself up out of the doldrums, so to speak, that's all part of that regeneration. So you can keep giving back to the people. I mean, you can stay in your same career for 40 years. I mean, your why may not change, but you need to be able to sustain yourself and move forward. And my dad, for example, worked for the Veterans Administration for 40 years, and he was perfectly happy. His why never changed in that respect. And then finally, service. I mean, that's to me, that's the epitome of it all. It's using that influence that you have to uplift others and contribute to something bigger than yourself. I mean, it could be service, could be in your community, being a mentor yourself. But to me, the major turning point in my service was not only Rotary, but it was that Muir Woods Peace Walk that we alluded to early on in this conversation, where we walked the footsteps of United Nations delegates 80 years ago at Muir Woods, as it was a memorial and a tribute to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who had passed away just a few weeks before to get the United Nations founded. We walked in those footsteps in the redwoods at Muir Woods. I like to say I listened, just walk and let the trees whisper to you, let everything come to you, walking the footsteps of the giants, not only of the redwoods, but of the global leaders. That's when it all came home to me. It's like, this is what it means to lead with soul. It's you having your presence, your purpose, your regeneration and service all in place.
So interesting is that when you started Paxaterra Global, did you start just at a local level, just right there in your arm's reach level within the community? Did you start there, and then at what point did it become actually a uh, global company?
I started it local, but I think it hit global before it actually even resonated more locally with folks. I mean, because I was participating at EarthX last year as well. I was an attendee at EarthX in Dallas, which is all about the environment. And I made a lot of contacts there, so I kept in touch with them. And when I finally kickstarted Global Paxaterra, I was able to connect with people around the world. I mean, I did some things locally with the National Farm to School Network and with Friends of the Truckee River Watershed Association, things like that. But things seem to take off more internationally in the last several months. Just speaking internationally, I have always had an affinity for the environment, having a degree in environmental sciences from the University of Maine. And it just kind of resonated more on a European side. For whatever reason, I'm happy to do that. And I wound up being asked to be on the board of directors for a climate organization in Brussels. So it's interesting how things work out. You may want to think it starts local and you kind of slowly go out, but for me, it started dipping my toes locally, but then it exploded internationally for me. Surprised the heck out of me.
Why do you think that was? Why do you think it became such a global necessity?
I think it has a lot to do with the current climate in the world today. Uh, for me, on the environmental side, again, without going into the politics or anything, the leadership globally in the environmental and climate areas has changed dramatically in the last several months. And so there's more pressure, more reliance on countries doing it themselves or working in the EU. So I work a lot in the EU. They're picking up a lot of global leadership aspects now, and they're yearning for that information, that assistance. And there's a lot of people in the United States that need it, but again, the ones that reached out to me initially were not the third world countries, but the small areas in Europe that need assistance getting their voices raised, the small nonprofits. I think being an American in Europe has its advantages at times, it has its disadvantages at times, but in this case, it worked to my advantage of being an American with leadership skills, a climate background, environmental background to help those in that part of the world.
So when you're out in these communities on the global scale, when you're actually in the communities themselves, what kind of feedback are you getting from the community? I mean, are they willingly participating in what you're doing? Are they standoffish to see what you're providing them? Can you tell us a little about what kind of a feeling that is when you're out there in the community?
Sure. So I think there's two aspects to that. On the service side, I usually try to partner with Rotaries. Since I'm a member of Rotary International, I try to partner with Rotary clubs so it's low impact into the communities. One of the things that I noticed when I started doing some volunteerism and ecotourism is that when we went into the communities, and all the tourists want to make themselves feel good as they're going out, they say, we're giving back to the local communities. But one of the things I noticed is that, especially when you're in some of the poorer nations of the world, when you're in Africa, when you're in the Middle East or some places like that, there, as a not just an American, but as a relatively wealthy, by comparative speaking, tourist going in, you see the people on the sidelines, the locals, in need of work, and that struck me as something wrong with that when we're going in and despite the best intentions that you're going in to volunteer and help the local community, you are helping it to a certain extent, but it's not making it self-sustainable. And to do that, you need to involve the local workforce, local communities. And that's one of the things that I've changed in my own mindset over the last several months and years. I mean, I was always, and I still am a proponent of volunteerism, travel with a purpose. But when you go into the areas and you're not helping the communities, you're not listening to them, you're not actively involving them, you're just there as a token of service. Yeah, it's a feel-good thing, but it doesn't help them long term. So that's the major thing that I've noticed of when you lead with soul, it also means leading with your local communities as well. And so I've changed my approach a bit over the last several months as to when I go into a community, even in a relatively affluent community, I'll try to work with the populations that are most in need in that area when I'm trying to work with a local group that's trying to get their voices raised. I try to raise all those that are around me as well, not just the group that I'm working with.
You mentioned something that I want to go back to real quick. You mentioned travel with purpose. Can you touch on that just a little bit more and what exactly you mean by that?
Sure, it's a little bit of a twist on ecotourism or on voluntourism where you travel. And I'm working with a couple of organizations now in Nairobi, for example, that they're in need of having their voices raised, but and that it's actually a travel company, but I've convinced them or working with them, convince is not the right word, it's working with them, collaborating with them to make it sustainable tourism. So being travel with a purpose means you're going in, you're giving back to the communities, but you're recognizing the cultural significance of the communities. You're going in and talking to the locals. You're going in and experiencing the the activities of what somebody does on a day-to-day basis without exploiting them. I mean, that's when a cruise ship goes into town, some of these small communities in Europe or in Africa, or even sometimes in the United States, you're inundated with tourists, and they're not giving is nothing other than giving to the economy. It's not self-sustainable. So travel with a purpose is allowing the local communities to be sustainable, giving back to them, having them have a say in what and how you're giving back to the community. Just going in and saying, I'm going to go feed, being on a soup kitchen or plant flowers or plant trees. Yeah, that's a feel good for you. That's not a feel good for the community. It may be needed, but you need to make them more sustainable and more regenerative as well, so they can continue to do it, continue long after you've left the area.
And you talked on something when you're going into some of these countries and some of them are standoffish for a while because they really want to see what is it that you're really doing. Are you just there for them? Are you there for yourself? As you get involved and they become involved in the process, what kind of a change do you see in them towards the end of your project?
I see them becoming more involved. They've become my friends. I mean, more than anything else, you go in and I'm working with the locals. We're inviting them to plant trees with us, or we're inviting them to do whatever activity with us, giving them a purpose. They've become more content with themselves. They've become more leaders themselves. So that's part of giving back is helping them discover their inner leader as well. So there are some of these areas and some of these communities that I've been into, they're very poor communities. And what just a few dollars, you're not giving them the money, you're making them work for it, which is what they want to do. They want to work. They don't want to just have here's $10 American money to do that. They want to be able to contribute to what you're doing, contribute to their community other than just being a participant on the sideline. So they're active, they become leaders in their communities. So that's one of the most things I'm proud about is seeing some of these people that are on the sidelines kind of judging you from a distance, saying, what are they here for? Having them actually become full-fledged members of participation in the activities that we're doing. And as we further develop some of the travel pieces that I'm working with in Kenya, they're going to become active members of the tour groups and of things that we do with the communities as well.
Are you seeing participation on all age levels when you're getting out into these communities?
Absolutely. I'm seeing from the kids that are 4, 5, 6 years old, they want to be involved, just like our kids here in the United States want to be involved at some level. But I'm seeing all the way to the elders of their communities, the ones that are the leaders. They're involved, and you need their blessing as well. You need to go in and work with them, figure out what is needed with them, not just what a local government official says. You want to go find the real leaders in the community. And it could be through the nonprofit that I'm working with, or it could be just talking to people and finding out who's who's actually running the show here. So when you find that out and you gain their confidence, it allows you to do so much more.
You go into these communities and you're helping them, you're helping the communities, getting them all involved in it. You leave. How important is it for you to follow up afterwards to find out what's happening, see if what the improvements or what's changed since you left? How important is that follow up?
It's important not only for me personally, but for the communities as well, because you don't want to just leave them on their own. So one of the things that I always do, part of one of the initiatives that I have at Paxaterra is called the Humanity Initiative. And initially, phase one of that is just giving 5 hours a month back to the community that I'm working with as a mentor. So I can't do that around for every community that I'm in, but I select the ones that are most needed of that, and I follow up with them every week, at least an hour a week, and I'll guide them on what they're doing, help them answer any questions that they may have. And hopefully they graduate to the next phase, which is getting more sponsors involved. So, and we're raising the voices along the way. So as we continue the life cycle of being in the Humanity Initiative, as they graduate from one phase to another, it allows somebody else to come in on the back end or on phase one to give them that same level of attention. It's not much, but again, I'm one person at this point, and if I get more sponsors on my side, then I'm able to hire more people to help me do that as well. So it's very important to continue that follow up, even those that aren't part of the initiative. I try to follow up with them as much as possible. At least once a month, I'll try to follow up with them.
And you touch on something that right now you're one person, you're doing this, but how important is it that one person can actually affect a change, not just within the arm's reach, but within a community as well? So there's a lot of people out there think, well, I'm just one person. What can I do as just one person? I can't affect one person. But you're here, you're explaining how you're changing communities, involving, bringing people together for change. It's very important for people out there to understand that, yes, one person can create a much needed change.
Absolutely. Whether it be in the community here in the United States and in Reno, for example, if you just one person goes out and plants a flower on your sidewalk or in the community, has a community garden. That's all it takes is just one person. You lead by example. Do something nice for your community. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything big as we see it all the time on the news. One person can make a difference just by leading by example, just showing others that, yes, I may not have all the money in the world, but I'm out here leading in my community. I'm helping others. You see it with people that have zero to their name. They're going out, and even though they could easily be on a soup kitchen themselves, they're out there actually passing out food. So it happens at all levels in the community, children, seniors, adults, everywhere. And even in globally, it's the same way. One person can make a difference. I mean, I've been fortunate in my life to be able to make some differences, be fortunate enough to travel and be affiliated with Rotary, which has helped me a lot. And I've met some influential people along the way who've guided me to these areas and allowed me to be that example for others in the community.
One of the services that you offer through Paxaterra Global is your retreats. Explain what's involved in these retreats. What can one expect if they were to, attend one of your retreats? What's the purpose of it?
So the purpose is just to get away from it all. So we're still in the founding period of getting the retreats off the ground, but the intent is to bring in either one company's leaders or leaders from different companies to come into a retreat where you get dedicated leadership one-on-one training. We'll go in and go through my 4 pillars of leadership. We'll do some wellness training in there as well, some breathing exercises. We'll do everything to make you whole, how to learn how to lead with soul. But at the same time, we're going any of these retreats that we do, my goal is always to give back to the communities that I'm in. So I've got one tentatively planned in the fall for Porto in Portugal. And that is where we're going to work with a local Rotary Club to find a project that we can all work on together, just a few hours, but giving back, finding a way to not only participate in the community, but help them grow and be sustainable along the way. So at the end of the 3 to 4 days that we have together, you yourself come away as a better leader, as a better person, better human. You're giving back, and you take definitive tools that you can take back to your organization with to lead better and lead your teams better.
You touched on something, and that is to kind of disconnect a little bit from, I mean, you take a look at the climate of the world in general right now. It is so chaotic, right? I mean, every day, it's no matter what you're doing, every day something is happening. You seem like you're going 100 miles an hour and you don't have time to stop. Even sleeping for a few hours, you don't get much rest. How important with today's climate, that with all the chaos that's going on, how important is it for people to remove themselves for a little while and reconnect with them internally?
It is so important. I mean, that's part of being present, being fully active and grounded in what you're doing, but it's also that regenerative piece that I've talked about before. I mean, it can be something as simple as, and I'm guilty of not always practicing what I preach, but again, I try to get back to it as much as I can. Going off of that walk at 10 o'clock in the morning just to clear your head. I don't even take a phone with me. I'll go out and take a walk, a mile loop in my neighborhood here in Reno, and I'll walk with my wife. It just allows you to decompress and take that time out and take a deep breath when you're going into a meeting. Take that deep breath, count to 5. Count backwards, don't count up. That's a trick that I learned from Mel Robbins. Count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then you're ready. If you count up, you keep expecting to go up. But if you count backwards, to me, it settles me down. And that was one of the best hints that I heard from my friend Mel.
Yeah, it's the 5-second rule, I believe is what you're
Yeah,
talking about, by Mel Robbins. And I've read that book, and it's pretty interesting how it works, the psychology behind it, and what it does to your mind. Going the wrong way, counting up versus counting down, it
right.
has a big impact. Let me ask you, with Paxaterra Global, what do you see as your ultimate vision for Paxaterra Global? What is that you ultimately want to see?
Ultimately, I want to duplicate myself as well. So I don't want to be the sole person. I want to be able to, as we grow and get more recognition, bring on people to do exactly what I'm doing. Maybe just a collaboration of like-minded people that want to become involved. I don't necessarily need to hire all these people. It can just be an organization of like-minded people where we work together and collaborate to. We're never going to solve the world's problems, but we're going to be able to help raise and elevate some voices around the world. That's my ultimate goal. Is just to make an impact globally to more than what I'm doing now. And I think that's the key. Uh, Again, I not just through Paxaterra, but through my keynotes that I give, my workshops in corporate environments. Those are the keys to be able to get the word out and spread the message of helping others. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being kind. I mean, I think being kind has a negative connotation in some circles today, but being kind, being a leader, and helping others. I think that's the key message that I want to bring globally.
And it's also important as we're talking about all this is being in gratitude as well, right? How important is the gratitude aspect of it?
It's so important. I like to think that I am very grateful for the life that I have. I mean, we all have our ups and downs, but I don't think I'd change anything in my life, but I'm extremely grateful for the people that are around me, being grateful, just appreciating those around you. It's not being grateful does not make you a weak person. It makes you a stronger person in my mind. There are too many people that go around just being nasty or not being grateful to the experiences that they've been allowed to have in their lives. And even I'll look at celebrities. I mean, you can look at celebrities on all parts of the spectrum. I mean, one that comes to mind is George Clooney. I mean, he comes, and I've had the opportunity to meet him many years ago, and he's been one of the most humble people, despite his fame that he has, that you'll ever meet. And he's very grateful for his life and those around him, and he helps those around him as well. So he helps pick people up. So it's being that grateful and passing it forward is extremely important.
There's a lot that everybody can learn from this conversation. Is there a message that you would want to say maybe to the younger generation that's coming up, just experiencing life and young adults? What kind of a message would you want to give them as they're starting to enter into their lives and maybe thinking that they have to have everything together? We kind of touched on this earlier, but what kind of message would you want to send to them?
You don't have my message to them is enjoy life. Don't try to get everything all at once. Know that your why will change. I mean, your why when you're 21 is different than your why when you were 5 years old. It's different than when you were in college. It's different as you progress through your work life. Do what you enjoy. Be passionate about what you do. Don't go into a job or a career that you don't enjoy. Just do what is right for you. Go forward. Be grateful. Be humble. Serve others. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on different organizations around the world, the volunteer organizations, the Kiwanis, the Rotaries of the world. They're always trying to appeal to the young people, and they have to adapt to what the younger generation wants as well. So, yeah, the younger generation, my words are serve others, uh, be grateful, say thank you, say please, and go forward in life.
Now let's take it on the other spectrum for those that are, where we're at now in life. And they're in that influx now, as we touched on earlier, of maybe they have retired, maybe they've lost their jobs unexpectedly. What message do you have for them as they're stepping into their new phase of life?
I acknowledge that it's scary. I mean, for me, it was scary jumping into that new phase, jumping both feet in, going into the speaking business after having been laid off, being nervous, going into consulting. But go into it with an open mind. Again, look at it as an opportunity. I know it's frustrating, it's hard, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck. I totally get that. But go into it with an open mind. Things happen. I'm a firm believer in things happening for a reason. When one door closes, another one opens up. So it may not happen right away, but it will happen. You'll be able to explore new things in your life. Don't give up. Don't give up on yourself. Yes, allow yourself to grieve over your lost job or what you're doing next, but don't just sit at home and do nothing. Go out, exercise, enjoy life around you. Join Rotary, join Lions Club, join a service organization, give back to your communities, find a way to give back. I have so many friends that are in their 70s and 80s and even 90s that they've retired and they want to give back to the communities. I think we just had someone in the Reno Rotary Club join that was 95 years old, first time Rotarian, and he wanted to give back. He was a former physician and he wanted to give back. involved in things throughout his life, and he wanted to get back to Rotary. So, I mean, that's one way to do it. Again, there are other organizations other than Rotary. It's find what your passion is. What do you want to do? If you don't know, try different things.
One of the things that you talk about with Paxaterra Global is partnerships. How can people reach out to you, find out more about what it is that they can do with Paxaterra Global?
So you can go on to my website, www.paxaterra.global. There's some forms on there. You can reach out to me at patrick@paxaterra.global. If you can't remember my name, just say info@paxaterra.global, or just go to the website, and there's all kinds of links on there for you to respond to get on my newsletter. I'm on LinkedIn as well. If you truly want to learn more about the organization of what we do and our workshops that we do, reach out to me as well.
We've touched on a lot here. A lot of ground that we've touched on. Is there a global message that you would like to send out to like the communities that you're going out to serve, like you're talking about Nairobi, and what kind of message would you want to send out globally?
Globally, I would like to say, I look at the best in people. I try to find the best in every person that I meet. So globally, I would say, look at the people around you. Get inspiration from your neighbors, get inspiration from your children, get inspiration from your leaders. If that doesn't exist, find someone else to get an inspiration from. You don't necessarily always have to agree with your leaders. You can find your own path in life, but give back to your community. Find a way to give back. Lead with soul. Again, no matter what part of the world that you're in, there is a place for you. You can give back. You can be the leader that you wanted to be, always wanted to be, or someone wanted you to be. But you can find your path in life.
All right. Well, anything that we haven't covered that you want people to know about Paxaterra Global, they want to know about Patrick Dunn, any other message that you want to get out there?
The main message is, if you need some help, figure out where you want to go. I'm always available to at least have an initial conversation. If your organization wants to bring in a workshop, reach out to me. I'm happy to work with you on that aspect. The other piece that I wanted to mention too is that when I get a corporate client, I will always find a way to give back to my local community. So for example, if I'm giving a talk at a corporate client in San Francisco, for example, I'll ask that corporate client, which charity do you like to work with? And then what I will do is I'll reach out to that charity and offer them the same exact workshop that I'm giving to that corporate client to them. So it's a 2-for-1. So it's not just it's a way of my giving back. It's also a way to help the companies give back as well. So they're bringing in leadership, but they're also providing leadership to an organization that they may feel that needs it as well.
All right. Well, Patrick Dunn and with Paxaterra Global, want to thank you for spending some time with us. You've got a great mission that you're trying to spread out to the world. We want to thank you for spending that time with us and enlightening us on what it is that you're trying to do on a global scale.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
All right. And if there's something in this interview that you found of value, or maybe you've got a comment about something in this interview that struck a nerve with you, just drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Deston Rogers. Join us again for another episode of Eagle Freedom Presents.
To learn more about our mission and become a part of #Rio Movement, visit eaglefreedompresents.com. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs a beacon of hope. If you know someone who has an amazing story of overcoming, send us an email to eaglefreedompresents@gmail.com. And remember our mantra: rise, inspire, overcome. Podcast distribution for Eagle Freedom Presents provided by Podetize. Visit podetize.com for all your podcast needs.